This episode of Jac is brought to you by Weaver Leather.
It's been 2 weeks since we last videotaped Jac, but in that 2-week time I've only worked him 7 times. I went out of town up to Canada, so Jac got a bunch of time off. And the other thing about breaking the work sessions up like that is that it causes me to want to go back and redo some of the earlier lessons. So after he had several days off, I came back and actually repeated some of the stuff we'd done before. But let me go ahead and get started and show you where we're at now. So a couple of the things that I had worked on before are that I had been bending him and teaching him bending was to stand still. So you're going to see that I now have the reins attached and that Jac's getting pretty comfortable with what the bending means. So he's bending his head around here. I'm holding until he softens up. He's thinking about moving his feet there. He softened up. But you can see that he's understanding what the bridle means a lot more. And this is important because before I'm going to climb on his back, he needs to get these answers correct 100% of the time without hesitation. This is going to be the kind of stuff that's going to keep me from getting bucked off. If he starts to get scared and I can pull his head around, that's what's going to save me from hopefully losing control. I'll show you the other stuff we've been doing, which has been some ground driving and some more advanced stuff with the saddle. Now when I'm lunging him, I'm hooking onto the side of the bit so that he's getting some pressure on his mouth. And another thing that I've done since I saddled him is I've started to use the saddle to sack him out. So one of my favorite things to do is to go ahead and hook onto the stirrup of the saddle. And today all I've done is brush him off and threw a saddle on him in the aisleway. So he hasn't been lunged yet. This is him coming fresh straight out here to work. There hasn't been a lot of the prep that you saw me doing earlier. And so what I'm going to do now is, since I've come out and he's still pretty fresh, I'm going to put him to work and I'm going to do something that might scare him like that, popping that stirrup up, because again, I'm looking for his first reactions. I don't want to have to lunge him for 20 minutes before he's safe to ride, so I'm coming out here and I'm testing some of these responses. He should get to the point where this stirrup doesn't mean anything to him. It just flops around and he ignores it. And until that happens, I'm a little bit hesitant to ride him because I want to know that if he gets startled by my leg moving, that he's not going to get real worked up and scared. Just like when I was working with the rope around his middle, I'll just keep annoying him with it until he ignores it. And then when he ignores it is when he'll find a reward. I'll leave him alone. If I can do that and flip it up over the saddle, it makes it bang a little bit different. And then I can also take this rope and kind of squeeze that rope up behind his bottom, which bothers a lot of horses. And I'm going to ground drive him in a minute, and I want to make sure he's not bothered by that rope being back there, because in a minute the rope running around the outside of his body is going to actually be a very long rein attached to his mouth. So by doing this, I'm making sure he's real quiet to the rope. There, that's just the rope annoying him. I'm trying to flip it up off the saddle horn and get it back down. But those are the little things I'm looking for. Those are still pockets of resistance that make me question whether or not he's ready to ride. But he's much better than he was. That's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and do everything, same thing, other direction. The longer it takes to flip up, the funny thing is, the better it is for the horse. Keep going. Now you can really see him shift gears. He's just really begging to be quiet. He's been learning over the last few weeks that that's where he gets to rest. When his mind shifts down into that quiet frame of mind is when he's more likely to get rest. So he's starting to realize that. So when he wants to be done, he starts acting the way that he's been allowed to stop before. So he starts to think about making an effort to be quiet, slow his thinking down. Good job, Jack. Been getting him used to the idea of me jumping around him, rocking the saddle, hitting the saddle, moving around him kind of fast. Done some more ponying with him. Okay. I'm gonna do another round of bending him, because I was bending him before I did any work, so he was actually really fresh. So now in this down cycle again, I'm going to go ahead and bend him again, because this is going to be my safety brake, my emergency brake when I go to ride him. And what some of those first rides are going to look like are just going to be like, stick the foot in the stirrup, think about jumping up and down, and you can see that causes him stress. So I'm not fully committed to getting on yet, but I'm doing the act of beginning by keeping my foot very shallow in the stirrup, but I'm testing out whether or not he overreacts and whether he responds to that bridle rein. So when he pulls on that bridle rein, you following me with your head? When he pulls on that bridle rein, I get worried and I think my safety is being able to pull your head around and keep you from being able to buck and rear and jump and run. So if it's not working in these small pieces, then I'm not gonna feel comfortable climbing on you. And it's interesting to think about where the first ride begins, because, you know, how far on is that first ride? So some people would say that you're halfway on, so you're starting to count some of these little pieces. But see, that resistance right there shows me that he's not ready for me to mount today. But I can get real close and try to break through that comfort zone and stretch his comfort zone a little bit more. Bend him around. He gets stiff. He's having to figure out how to stand, because you'll notice in the next few videos that he'll start standing his feet wider, because right now he's not accustomed to thinking about me stepping up on him and having to keep his balance. He's pretty stout and strong, but he'll still want to figure out how to keep us both balanced. Right now, just having his leg back right there is making my foot hit his leg, and so he's got to start to think about how he could get away from that pressure. I'm not going to make myself responsible for it all the time. Okay, back to another work cycle.
Tune in next time as the conversation between Stacy and Jac continues.